It's the day after an unfortunate Kansas City Chiefs loss, and you know Chiefs Kingdom is in shambles on social media, so I thought let's do an overreaction Monday on our Kansas City Chiefs. But before we do get into that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chiefs related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. Chiefs Kingdom, Chiefs Kingdom, Chiefs Kingdom. All I gotta say is after a loss, y'all are a different type of animal. And I don't know if this is the new era of fans, old era of fans, or what is going on, but I know we have been winning a lot in recent years, and it's like we forgot what a loss feels like. It's the end of the world. What are we gonna do? Might as well implode everything and start from the ground up. That is not the case. Y'all have to remember 10 years ago, even maybe earlier than that, not earlier than that because Reid has been here 10, that's crazy. Andy Reid has been our coach for 10 years. But in the early 2000s nonetheless, and even 2010, those were very, very rough and difficult times, and we were losing a lot. Remember how it felt back in those days. I know, sometimes I gotta remind myself too, but I was there for Matt Castle. I was there for Brodie Croyle. I was there for Damon Heward. Those days were way worse than now, and some of y'all got a lot, and I mean a lot of interesting takes this Monday, so I thought, let's discuss them, let's have fun, and I'll say if they're an overreaction, if it's properly reacted, or if it's really no smoke whatsoever. But without further ado, let's get right into this. Now, topic number one, and what I'm going to kind of do this by, maybe my level of concern wise. So my first one is going to be what I'm most concerned by, and then number 5 is really what I'm not concerned about at all, and what you guys are smoking on that good about, and we shouldn't be overreacting about anything. But number 1, what I am most concerned about, and what I believe you guys are properly reacting to, is this pass rush. Now, again, I know a lot of people will say, well, we're getting the pressures, and pressures in the future will amount to sacks. And yeah, I understand that completely, because it depends on who you ask what pressures means to them. I'm a type of person where I am 50-50 with pressures. Like, yes, I love to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable, get him off his game, and keep going. But that's just not how Spags' defense runs. Like, he will throw different type of packages at you. Now, if it was a consistent blitz package where you kept throwing the pressures at him, like at a Herbert or Tom Brady or Josh Allen, and you had them off their game the entire game, I completely understand. But that's not how the Chiefs defense goes. They will run like 2 series of blitzes, then they're back in man coverage. Josh Allen can get back on his game, and he's just picking you apart again. So that's why I'm like, I don't really buy into the pressure stats so much, because it's one thing to get to the quarterback, and it's another thing to get to the quarterback, as I mentioned, in bringing him down and throwing him off his game. So many times yesterday, Josh Allen was pressured, and some were very effective, and some were he was hurdling guys. He was finding a way to extend the play and things like that. And I know Josh Allen is one of the best in the league. He's probably right behind Mahomes. A lot of you could debate that, but on this channel, we are not doing that. You guys will definitely be overreacting if you think Allen is better than Mahomes. That is something we will not discuss on this channel, but he is definitely a top 2 quarterback. So I understand to say, well, he will hurdle anyone and make his way around. I get it. But at the end of the day, you need to find a way to get this guy down and make sure to get his reads out the way and make sure you don't have running lanes and things like that. And that's where I don't find these pressures basically effective. And it even happens in the lights of a slow guy like Tom Brady. Brady was able to maneuver his way and extend plays. It seems to always happen. Kansas City is terrible at tackling this year. Like, always with the run game, quarterbacks, you mentioned it, wide receivers, the first guy never can seem to lay the direct hit. And it's very unfortunate, because when that first guy is there, you think hell of a play is about to happen. And that is just not the case. And then the second guy misses, and then it goes on. So I get that the Kansas City Chiefs have the most pressures in the league, but the sacks aren't up there. And maybe the sacks will start accumulating. Who knows? But right now, I am asking for sacks and production. I don't really care about the pressures, because the pressures aren't doing much. Can they be disruptive? Yes. And can they look cool at the time being? Yes. But when I know Spags is about to only do blitzes for 2 series and then go back to zone and go back to man, it does not mean much to me. And you guys will say, oh, he's overreacting because pressures do mean a lot. Hey, that's your take. If you want to discuss it, that's what the comments are open for. But pressures don't mean much. And then a lot of people are going to be like, well, then who can we trade for to help bolster up this pass rush? I'm going to let you guys know right now. There's nobody. I know we are all hoping for a Brian Burns, and so am I. But at the end of the day, Carolina is probably not going to trade him or wants the house for him. So that is very unlikely. Would I give up a first for Brian Burns? Hell yeah, I would. I mean, I think he would be an immediate impact. He would bolster this D-line, and we would get meshing and going, and then finally stopping some quarterbacks. If not, help better the likes of a Chris Jones, who's already having a phenomenal year. Maybe George Karlaftis' pressures can become sacks. Same with Frank Clark, too. Start singling up some of these men and having a good time. But I think that is so unlikely, you guys. It's something you really have to pray every night for. And then a guy I mentioned before, the year with trade destination with the familiar coach with Kansas City, now in Jacksonville, and things seem to be going downhill, but we'll have to see, is Josh Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars pass rush. A young guy, former first-round pick. We know how Veach loves those former first-round picks that don't work with their first team. I would love that, but I don't think that's happening as well. That's why I'm saying you just got to hope these guys basically get their act together and they just start hitting the quarterback and making these pressures become sacks and make it a consistent thing. Because if that doesn't happen, this team is going to continue to struggle on defense. And a lot of you will say, well, they're not struggling because it's a bend but don't break. I told you, I don't like that. So as long as I'm watching and I don't like bend but don't break, again, it is beneficial in some situations. But when it's still a game and you're bending and not breaking, and then you're basically up by 3, tie game whatsoever, the defense has showed they can never end a game. Now, again, maybe I am overreacting again, but at the end of the day, I just know this defense needs to be a lot better, and they really have the potential to be. Like I mentioned, Frank Clark has played better than what a lot of people have been noticing. George Karlaftis, he is there, but I want to see the sacks actually come in. And Chris Jones, you might as well have him as Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, very underrated, but he has been a nuisance in every game. And then I'd like to see more of Dunlap too. They got the guys to do this. They just need to do it. Now we're going to be discussing about this O-line. And a lot of people are basically saying this is a bad O-line. And honestly, right at this moment, it might be a tad little bit of overreaction. But I don't think it's nothing too crazy right now. I will say, if one thing, they're not living up to their potential and definitely not playing like they played last year. This last game, they were abysmal. They were terrible. You can't sugarcoat it anyway. Orlando Brown gave up his most pressures. Andrew Wiley gave up his most pressures of the year. And the same with Joe Thuney too, shockingly. But Joe Thuney, I don't know how hurt he was playing. We'll have to see once the injury report comes out through the week if he's really hurt or if he's able to man and push through. We know he is a grown man. He's a dog. Nothing is going to keep him out of the game. But at the end of the day, those three combined, what was it? Over 20 pressures, and they were basically having Mahomes feel uncomfortable the whole day. And shit, on the last play of the game, Andrew Wiley, the Bills brought Von Miller in for a reason, and it was for this game too, to make Mahomes uncomfortable, and that's what that last play was all about. They played perfect man coverage, and Miller made a play. Mahomes like, oh, I don't got enough time. I'm just going to sling it to where I hope my guy is. Intercepted. You got to give Mahomes at least enough time to extend a play or step into the pocket, and that just was not happening yesterday at all. And that basically makes a lot of people question, does Mahomes struggle against man coverage? And it's not that I don't want to believe it, it's not true. Like, if you give him time, he will dissect a defense. Man coverage, zone coverage, you blitzing, yada, yada, yada. He's going to be the best quarterback in the league. But if you give him less than 2 seconds to throw the pass, any quarterback is going to struggle, and it's very unfortunate. Orlando Brown Jr. has basically blown his bag. He should have took the money he initially got and ran with it, because that contract is not coming back again, and Kansas City will probably look in free agency, if not the draft, to find a new left tackle. And I saw a lot of interesting scenarios where you guys are preaching, well, what if Orlando Brown moves to right tackle? You move Andrew Wiley out, you bring Joe Thuney to the left tackle, and you bring Allegretti and Trey Smith doing their thing. Again, it might be an upgrade, but you haven't watched the Kansas City Chiefs long enough. They will not do that adjustment, and as well, Orlando Brown Jr. would throw fits. I believe he's the type of guy who's more about his money and less about the team. Now, I could be completely wrong, but There's a reason he rejected the bag in the first place. He wants to be paid top left tackle money. So he's not going to want to go to right tackle. That's going to be an insult. Even though he was really good in Baltimore there, he wants to prove he's a left tackle. And I may be going crazy saying that he's more about the money and team because I don't want it to seem that way. But at the end of the day, he wants to be a left tackle. He wants to go after the bag. That's what I'm saying. He will not be a right tackle, and I feel like if even Kansas City mentioned it, that would cause like chaos in the locker room and maybe tension too. That's something you want to avoid at all costs. Again, this is just another scenario where you got to hope the O-line picks up their game and be really good, because this O-line has not even the potential to be a top 5 O-line, a top 3. They can be the best O-line in the league with these names. They proved it last year. And right now they're at a stalemate and they're letting these D-lines get the best of them. And next week is very concerning. No matter if San Francisco's D-line is completely healthy, 100% or not, I'd be scared of Nick Bosa at 70%. Those boys know how to eat offensive line. And if Kansas City's O-line doesn't show up, they're going to be in for a long day, and so is Patrick Mahomes. So they need to bring their A game because right now it has been unsatisfactory and it's very unfortunate. Now, this next thing y'all would love to talk about, and it's crazy. Like, I would usually be in that same wheelhouse with you because you guys know it's my favorite position to basically discuss, but I just can't get there with you guys, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs need a number 1 wide receiver, and a lot of you guys, you don't watch enough or you need to watch more, and it's basically relax. Like, Juju is a legit receiver in this league. MVS is most of a deep threat, but he can have his games where he goes off. I believe Sky Moore, we have seen more and more of him, and those receptions will start coming. He had a beautiful catch last week, but Juju is going to be your reception guy, and he needs more targets. He's still on pace for 1,000 yards and over 70 catches. He's going to have a really good year and even a great future with the Kansas City Chiefs if they sign him to extension, which I am believing. But you guys need to know Andy Reid's system. I want you guys to really go in the comments and let me know the last time a receiver in his first year has come into Andy Reid's system and basically exploded and went nuts. Honestly, even going back to Philly, what is it, just T.O.? No wide receiver just walks into this system and does great. You could say Macklin came in, but then again, he really didn't because he was with Reid in Philly. So he knew the system and he still had over 1,000 yards. So it's like, relax, be patient. Receivers just do not walk into this wide receiver room and go off. It takes time. Even Juju mentioned after the game, we are getting close, but we are still trying to get the chemistry down, and we're still trying to gel and learn as a whole group and a whole unit. And to have Juju have his first big game and to see how it's going to progress from here should be very positive signs. I think this is the last question that needed to be asked, specifically in this game. That wasn't the reason the Kansas City Chiefs lost this game. There was many reasons, whether you want to blame clock management, coaching, quarterback play, O-line play, defense. Wide receiver was definitely not one of them. And I know you guys are like, well, let's trade for a DJ Moore. What about Odell Beckham and things like that? I guarantee you right now, if we traded or signed Odell, they are not going to produce the way Juju is right now. I guarantee it. It just won't happen. They need time to learn this system. Can they make impact plays? Sure. But at the end of the day, Juju will still be a better receiver, and he's going to prove that in the weeks to come too, where everyone what we were hoping for in the offseason was 6 to 9 catches a game, 9 on the high end, and averaging 80 to 100 yards. That's going to start happening, and then you guys are going to basically forget about this overreaction. I'm booking that right now. Juju's going to have a great year this year. Just put your seatbelts on, buckle up, be patient, and enjoy the ride. Trust me, wide receiver is the farthest issue. Now, when we go into the offseason, it might be something to look at because you don't know if you're going to bring the likes of a McCall Hardman back because he is having, honestly, to me, a productive year. He has looked better week in and week out, and it seems like his hill is getting better. Again, stat-wise, nothing too fancy, but he is making plays, and that's something you really like to see. He's not going to be your solidified number 2. But if he has a role on this team, he could be back. But let's say he's not. Then, of course, you're going to look in free agency for someone, or you're going to look in the draft. But do I see Kansas City making a play for a wide receiver? I would call it slim, maybe 20%, because I'm never going to rule it out because Brett Veach loves to basically improve this team. And if he can get Odell at a good price or if he can get a good trade target with the DJ Moore or someone like that. I heard someone mention Van Jefferson too, which would be a good pick, but at the end of the day, he's not going to produce better than Juju. None of these guys out here right now are going to produce better than Juju. So I just need you guys to know that. As much as you feel this wide receiver room is struggling, it really isn't. They're doing good, and you still have Travis Kelce, who is dominating this league still. So if you have Travis Kelce still doing his thing, and then these receivers start rolling, this is going to be a different type of ball game entering November and December. Now we're going to dive into the run game, and everyone is saying this run game is so difficult to watch. Is that an overreaction? You got to take it for what it's worth, really. I don't want to say it's overreaction, but sometimes I do want to say it's an overreaction. But mostly what I'm going to blame the run game on itself is coaching. Like, Kansas City Chiefs, as we know, do not run the ball enough or even give it time to basically get a run game going. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a couple good runs yesterday to where maybe you keep pounding him and see what happens or what he makes too. And I know a lot of y'all hate CEH for whatever it's worth, but he has had a productive year. Yesterday is not the game for me to be preaching he needs to be the back in Kansas City, but where I'm going to say coaching really kills the run game is, and I have always mentioned it, is know when and where to run your backs. CEH, when you know it's going to be an outside run, that is not the type of run you give it to him. That's got to be to Jet McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco. CEH is not going to bust it to the right or bust it to the left. So when I see him making that type of run, I'm like, why are we calling this play with him in there? And a lot of us are going to blame CEH for that, but I'm going to blame coaching because you're not setting him up for success. And same on short yardage situations too. When you have a Jerick McKinnon in there, I'm cool with it if you're throwing it to him. If it's like 3rd and 2 or 4th and 1 in those situations, it should literally only be Mike Burton and Isaiah Pacheco. No one can power through a hole like Isaiah Pacheco. As I say that, I know a lot of us saw Jerick McKinnon do what he did last week against the Raiders, and it was a beautiful, lovely run. But Isaiah Pacheco is the power back and the speed back that's going to get that popping and going. All these 3 different type of backs bring a different dimension to the game, and I think the Kansas City Chiefs running back coaches and things like that have had a hard time on basically putting them into where they need to succeed. We've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire be successful this year, but we've also seen him be more successful when he has the ball in his hands in the receiving game. And when that doesn't happen, he's going to struggle to be good. That's why I've mentioned time in and time out, why don't you just run Isaiah Pacheco as not your every down back, but your like legit running back? And then you can run a 2-system set and either rotate with CEH and Jerick McKinnon. And when they're in, you're throwing them the ball, and you can still run the ball because they can still pick up positive yards too. But there is so many different ways to go about this running game. And I just believe the Kansas City Chiefs aren't doing it correctly. I can't blame the running backs in full. Of course, they are going to get some of the blame. But at the end of the day, I just feel like they're not being put in the best position to succeed. Now, again, when it's Overreaction Monday, I could be the one crazy talking about it, but I'm just giving you guys what I am seeing. And when it's like also very predictable stuff too, it's like, which I will never understand. When Kansas City has a drive going, let's say Mahomes throws 2 10-yard passes, keeps picking up first downs, and then you have a 1st and 10, I would love to run it there. But then the next pass, Mahomes is incomplete, and then we decide to run it on 2nd and long. That basically kills the drive to me because CEH or whoever it is usually 9 times out of 10 going to only pick up 3 to 4 yards, maybe less, and then you give Mahomes a 3rd and long. Let's manage the game better and put this team in the best position to win. There's so many things where this offense can tweak and make better, and I think they can do where they can be a really legit offense, and they can. They can still be very scary with the weapons they put out there, but it's going to take some time, and I believe they can get the running game together, but it's definitely more of a question mark to me than the wide receiver game. But at the end of the day, I think these backs can be legit. You just got to put them in the position to succeed. Now, like I mentioned, Chiefs Kingdom after a loss is one of the craziest things and a sight to see. And y'all took it to the next level today, saying that Nick Bolton is falling off. And what? Like, I don't understand. Like, I get it. He may have his inconsistencies, but still he makes plays, and he is a really good linebacker. And I think what we fail to forget, too, is he's got everything on his shoulders right now with Willie Gay being out, and he's still on pace for 170 tackles. Only thing that really upset me yesterday, and I am going to go back with coaching, is why is he covering Diggs? But that's not the assignment he chose either. That's coaching putting him in that situation, which he should never be in. And again, that makes the fans look at Nick Bolton in a different light, being like, oh, he's doing a terrible job and things like that. No. And I hear a lot of people saying, well, he's not ripping through the first blocker and things like that. And I will give it to you, it tends to happen, but at the end of the day, he is still in the backfield, and he is still getting to the running back, and he's still making his presence noticed too. That's why he is up there in tackles. That's why he is leveling running backs and things like that. And that's why he, in the midfield area, it's so tricky with this because that's not even Nick Bolton's job. We knew coming into this that Nick Bolton, when he was drafted, is not the best coverage linebacker, and that is something to improve, and it still is something to improve, and he knows that as well. He is basically a thumper, will lay you out and go after the running back, and that is what he excels in to this day. So for people to say he's falling off, what are y'all smoking on? Like, literally, like, he is one of our bright spots, and you're bringing him down. I think once Willie Gay will be back, and then he takes the coverages on most running backs, receivers, tight ends, you name it, and Nick Bolton can play his game the way he needs to play his game, you guys will start to love him again, which I'm surprised that's even a question at this mark. I just think, again, it's overreaction Monday. You guys went a little crazy with this one. Again, yeah, he has a lot to improve, but at the end of the day, he's still proving he is a top 10 linebacker, and by season end, he can prove he's a top 5 linebacker in this league. So get off my boy Nick Bolton. He is one of the best, so relax on it. But with that, Chiefs Kingdom, I'm going to close this video out. You let me know how you're feeling on some of my overreactions. If people are going crazy, if they need to relax, which y'all do. But with that, let me know in the comments how you're feeling. Please do subscribe to the channel. Like this video. I will check back in with y'all tomorrow to talk about some of these San Francisco 49ers and how I view we are going to do in that game. With that, y'all take care. Peace.